Hey everyone, I'm your astrologer Brittany of Ethereal Astrology, helping you to see the larger story of your life with horoscopes that emphasize the cycles of the moon and the slower moving planets. Today, you're watching the astrology horoscope for the collective for the full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces, which occurs on Tuesday, September 17th, 2024 at 10:34 p.m. Eastern Time or 7:34 p.m. Pacific Time. Now, what I think is going on here at this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces is that we're getting a lot of very good wisdom, understanding, and insight about who we want to be in our lives that truly aligns with ourselves and how we want to adjust relationships and money to be more in alignment with us than I think they have been in a very long time. But even though we're getting a lot of very good insights about these things, I think we're afraid to really dive in and to go all in on these things, and afraid about our abilities and whether we do or don't have what it takes here, which is making us hesitate and bring out a lot of our inner triggers and fears from the past to, I think, actually be fully resolved and to break through in a very significant, helpful way by the end of it all at this eclipse in Pisces, so that we can move forward on these things that are in alignment and really create the life that we're dreaming of. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. If you want to hear more about that, please stay tuned, because I'm going to hop into that right now. In order to get started, what I like to do first is to place on the chart what it is that I'm referring to here so that you can see it and follow along with me. So let me do that now. This chart here I have adjusted for the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. I know that because I've got the sun here in Virgo making an exact opposition over here to the moon in Pisces, or the moon in Pisces making an exact opposition to the sun, however you want to say it. And when these two things oppose here, that is what is considered a full moon. And of course in Pisces here, because that's where the moon is. This is also considered an eclipse too, because it is within somewhat of a close proximity here to the nodal axis. Here we've got the north node 6 degrees Aries and the south node 6 degrees Libra here. And the nodal axis is where eclipses occur, where all these, the sun and the moon would align when they're there. Now, I want to note that even though the full moon is somewhat close to the nodal axis, it's not really super close. It's not like right up on it. It's about, what do you see here, about 10 or 11 degrees away. And because it's close to the nodal axis, but not right up on it, this is considered a partial lunar eclipse instead of a total one. But it is still a bit of an eclipse here that's going on. All right. So we've got a full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces here. Hey, what is this all about? Well, let's start with full moons. Full moons to me are a lot about stepping into things that we've been working towards for quite some time here, or in other words, bringing it to completion or fulfillment with it being a full moon here. So I think there's that going on, something we're really trying to complete, accomplish, step into here. Not only that, but full moons as well can also bring big decisions too about those things that we're stepping into or want to complete as well, because a full moon is the function of an opposition, and it's hard to do two opposite things at once. You normally need to make decisions here about some things. And not only that, but I also too see full moons as well about bringing insights here, or bringing things to light that perhaps we did not see before, that can be very helpful to our journey, especially because that is when the moon is the brightest in the sky and is being illuminated there. Okay, not only that, but this is an eclipse. Eclipses do tend to superpower that, even though it's a partial one, it is going to make the full moon a bit more significant here than it would be at other times. So this is not just any, thing that we're trying to step into or complete or make decisions about or get insights on. It's a more major or more significant thing we're trying to complete, with more major or significant decisions and insights that we might get at this time. Okay, now what is it that we're trying to majorly step into, complete, decide on, or get insights at this time? Pisces, because that is, of course, where this is taking place. What is Pisces all about? Well, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. The last sign of the zodiac is a lot about releasing things and letting them go once and for all, right? So that we can eventually move on to something new and different in Aries, eventually the first sign of the zodiac here. So one of the major things that we're trying to do or get insight on or make decisions about at this full moon is about how we can let the past go, and draw a more permanent line in the sand between the old and the new and what we want to create after this point. Okay, and get insight and decision about that. Not only that, but Pisces to me as well is also a lot about healing too. And it's a lot about healing, again, being the last sign of the zodiac, right? When you release things, there is healing that might need to happen in order to fully be done. Be done with all of this old stuff, especially too, because Pisces is a water sign, which has to do with emotional. So some emotional healing or emotional things that needed to be worked through and healed before we can move on. That again might be coming up and be very significant here at this full moon eclipse. Okay, in addition to that, here that's going on. To me, Pisces can also, I need to note, be a sign of wisdom here as well. And it can be a sign of wisdom and understanding because, sure, it used to be ruled by the planet Jupiter before Neptune was discovered. And Jupiter is about wisdom and understanding, but also, too, because it's the last sign of the zodiac. And you don't get to be the last sign without being around the block a few times and understanding things here and having a higher understanding, especially if we're going to release and heal some stuff here as well. So I think there's some of that going on that we're trying to step into in a more significant way and work through. And in addition to that, Pisces as well is also about connecting more with the divine or with our higher self or with our intuition or maybe even angels on the other side here as well. And again, to me, it has to do that with being the last sign of the zodiac, right? If you're letting things go here, you know, you're kind of have to let things go and be open to the unknown, so to speak. So I might also include the unknown in there. We're also trying to trust spirit, the divine, our intuition, and be okay with the unknown here. That might be happening in a very significant way. Not only that, but another thing that I'll say about Pisces to me is also, you know, a more restful sign. Maybe rest is a weird word to use with the North Node in Aries, but I consider it a more restful sign or a more peaceful sign that goes more with the flow, especially with it being a water sign, right? Water flows and symbolized by fish here. So something that goes more with the flow here and yeah, more, I think, peaceful around some of those things here as well. So I think we're also trying to step into that, not only to releasing the past and healing some things and being more okay with the unknown and trusting, you know, spirit, the divine, or intuition to carry us through, but to be at peace throughout this whole process and to go with the flow with it. And maybe also I might use a word surrender here as well. To the process and to whatever needs to happen here too. Okay. And I think that's all that I'm going to say for now about the main themes here of this full moon lunar eclipse. Okay. And those are, again, at this full moon lunar eclipse, just to bring it all together here, we are in a very significant way, I think, trying to release a lot of things from the past that are no longer working for us, heal from whatever might have gone on there, and get in touch more with our spirit, intuition, and the divine, and to be more open to the unknown or to whatever needs to happen next, and to surrender to that, and to have more peace throughout the process here and trust in whatever that takes. Okay, and go more with the flow of that. All right, and that's it. Now, before I move into more of the details and specifics of this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces and how it's going to play out, in my opinion, I do always like to go back in time for a minute and zoom out to some of the other alignments here that are going on before going more into the specifics here. And I do like to do that because I think that going back in time and looking at some of the other alignments can be very important to give a lot of the context of how we got here to this lunation and of why it's important here and to help us understand it. And because a lot of times the context is what makes each full moon different from the next, because there's, you know, a full moon in every sign every year. So even though I know this is an eclipse. So I'm going to go back to that. If you have heard that plenty of times and you're just not interested, or if it's too long, whatever reason, if you just don't want to hear that and it's confusing for you, no worries. I've got the timestamps in the description box here for you to easily navigate past that and to dive in right now to the actual full moon that's going on. So feel free to use those there for that purpose. But I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to start back at an alignment that I think was extremely significant that we're still feeling, which happened at the beginning of 2020, somewhere in between, roughly, these are now rough estimates here, but January to April of 2020. Around that time, we had a very rare and significant and difficult alignment. What we had was Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, and the South Node here all conjunct around the middle to end degrees of Capricorn. This is very difficult because, well, maybe I'll say it's very rare first, because Saturn and Pluto only come conjunct about every 35 years, and not always with Jupiter in the South Node there, which makes it even more rare. And it's a very difficult alignment because Saturn and Pluto can be considered more difficult planets that bring more challenging things, especially with Pluto being out there. And not only was it difficult because of that, but also because the South Node is involved, which tends to indicate things that we need to let go of that aren't working for us. And Jupiter was in Capricorn, a sign it also doesn't like to be in. So very rare and difficult. What was the rare difficulty? Well, I think what happened at that time is that we started to realize or understand Jupiter, that there were a lot of things in our physical life, Capricorn, that had been going on for many years, maybe even 3 decades, 35 years prior to this point, that either were just not good for us, or that we just outgrown and were not right for us anymore, that we needed to make big, sweeping, permanent change, Pluto, to really end, to get ourselves out of these messes so that eventually we could move on into different and better experience. And it was us realizing that, not only realizing that, but actually starting to make those difficult endings here to let a lot of things go that weren't working. So that's what happened there, January, April 2020. Something's not working, got to end it. Hard. That then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which happened about 2 years later. I'm going to fast forward a bit to also around April of 2022 now. And that was a new moon solar eclipse that we had here somewhere in the sign of Taurus. Okay, I want to consider this a helpful thing here. I want to consider this a helpful thing because sorry, I think I've got some issues with my chart. Here we go. I want to consider it a helpful thing because it was on the North Node, which I do consider to be more positive here. What was a good thing? New moons are about new beginnings, new energy, and fresh starts. Solar eclipses superpower that. And Taurus is a lot about fertility and abundance. It's also about stability and security here as well. So I think what happened in April of 2022 is that we felt like we had ended enough things from the past 35, 36 years that were not working for us, that we did not like, and that we are finally in a bit of a better place, a more fertile place or abundant place from which to grow after this point and create different experiences. That then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which happened about 2 weeks after that here, also somewhere around April of 2022. And at that time, we had a full moon lunar eclipse in the opposite sign here of Scorpio on the South Node. Now that to me was a bit difficult because it was on the South Node, which tends to be harder. What was the difficulty? Well, the South Node tends to indicate things that we're stuck in that are no longer meant for us at this time here, that are holding us back, that are really hard for us to get rid of. So we were stuck here in some habits that were not conducive to what? To that new life we felt like we were now in a more fertile place to move forward on. What were the habits that were holding us back? Well, those are Scorpio habits, not because Scorpio is a bad sign, just because the South Node was there at that time. Okay, Scorpio, when more challenging, can tend to indicate here tumultuous emotions here that we may still have or still be feeling, right? Especially if we just ended a lot of old things, right? Of course, we're going to have tumultuous emotions, but it doesn't help to, be stuck in those. Not only that, but Scorpio can also indicate as well losses of money or debt or big debts and bills we need to pay off here as well. So this could also indicate not only are we stuck in just negative emotions from what we had to end the past few years, but also some debt or some difficult financial situations as well that were hard to get rid of. Not only that, but Scorpio as well can also be about change here that's going on. So we also could have been stuck in making a lot of too much change because that's just what we've been doing, and it's hard to stop doing something you've been doing for a while. That could have been going on. In addition to that, Scorpio, when negative, can indicate kind of giving too much of our power away to other people or being too intertwined with other people that maybe, again, we're still trying to get rid of here or just aren't working for us in some sort of way as well. So we could have been stuck in some of that again was making it hard for us to start in this new life that we really needed to get rid of, I suppose, get rid of the debt, get rid of all the change, some of these relationships and the negative emotions that was going on here. And if I can be honest with you, even though we realized that in April of 2022, I think it took us almost all of 2022 to really work through those themes and release all of that. In my opinion, it wasn't until the following year, also somewhere around April of 2023 here, that we were able to figure that out and work through those issues so that we can move forward. And the reason why April of 2023 was significant is for a few reasons. We had another solar eclipse at that time. Here, it was a new moon. It was in the sign of Aries. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, about new beginnings and fresh starts here, so that we can move forward on that. Also, too, Pluto and Saturn had just changed signs as well. Pluto into Aquarius for a bit and Saturn into Pisces. And when somewhat solar moving planets change signs, they can also indicate new chapters or different chapters in our life as well. So I think April of 2023 was when we finally had dealt with that issue. We were not indulging in as many negative emotions and as many, toxic relationships, so to speak. We also dealt with some of our debt here and stopped making as many changes and felt as though we were able to move forward again into a different and better experience the second time after already trying a year prior in April of 2022. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment excuse me, that I want to mention here, which happened about a month or two later. I think it was somewhere around May or June. Maybe I'll say that, May to June of 2023. Around that time, Venus went retrograde here in the sign of Leo. Okay, this is also a little bit of a challenge because it's a personal planet, which is felt more personally here in our personal lives, and because it was appearing to move backwards in the sky, which is not its natural direction. What did this bring? Well, it also brought a feeling of stuckness, right? If it's moving backwards, a feeling of stuck, still not able to move forward in this new experience yet again for another time in the way that we might like here. What was the challenge or what was the difficulty there? Well, I think the reason why we were stuck and unable to move forward is because of the Leo stuff, which is where Venus was going retrograde, because if we were doing the Leo great, it wouldn't need to go retrograde there. Okay, what was that issue? Well, Leo is a lot about happiness, joy, pleasure, fun. It's also a lot about ourselves here too as individuals. And I think we were struggling with that. We were struggling to have fun in life and do what we love and do what makes us happy and really honor that here, even though we were in a better place. Here, that was more secure. We were still struggling to really have fun and enjoy it, which is important, right? Because a new experience in life isn't really better if we're not happy in it here and don't have that emotional connection to it. So I think that was the problem, especially Pluto retrograded back into Capricorn at that time too, keeping us stuck a little bit in emergency mode, or being too rigid and harsh here about ourselves and our situation that was going on, that was keeping us stuck here, that we then needed to resolve here. And I think that it took us some time to resolve, but I think especially, maybe I'll say this year, the beginning of this year, now we'll fast forward, May of 2024, we finally did start to resolve that and have more fun in life and do more of what makes us happy and honor more of our own joy and pleasure as individuals here. And that was because in May of this year, right, this year's 2024, we had another alignment that was somewhat rare and significant, and that was Jupiter conjunct Uranus here in the sign of Taurus that went on. This to me, I want to consider more positive than negative because Jupiter was involved, and it's fine in the sign of Taurus here, which tends to be about wisdom, understanding, gifts, and good luck. So I thought that was a good thing here that was going on. And Uranus was about the sudden and unexpected. It could also be about breaking free from things. So that's going on. And it was in Taurus about stability, security, that new fertile beginning, and better money, sense of self, and confidence. So May 2024, we finally, perhaps unexpectedly, broke free from things that weren't making us happy anymore and started to honor more of the things that were making us happy, which brought us more stability, more confidence, better money situations, better sense of self, and all of that. Okay, that then leads me now to the next month, which was June, right? June of this year, roughly. Here, and in June of 2024, we had a new moon here in the sign of Gemini. And what I think that brought was a lot of new, right? New moons are new things. Gemini is a lot of thoughts and ideas now about what we could do next in our life, yet again, to embark again for a third time here, a third try on a new and better experience of life we've been trying to get to since 2020. Here, and it brought a lot of these ideas because, again, Gemini is a Mercury ruled sign. Here, that was going on. And I thought that was a fine thing, but even though that was a fine thing, I think in June we had so many ideas that we did not know which ones to choose. And because of that, a month later in July, we had a new moon here in the sign of Cancer. And I think at that new moon in Cancer, we then realized we needed to slow down a little bit. Here, to me, Cancer can sometimes be a little bit of a slower sign to really figure out here what was the best idea to choose or the best way to go about it. And I think what we learned around July is that the idea that we really need to choose is not the ideas that are long, drawn out, and complex, which may be tempting and what we've done in the past, but that the ideas we needed to choose after this point and pursue are the ones that are shorter to implement, easier to implement, quicker to implement, more fun, more enjoyable, that we can do more alone as individuals here and are more in our best interest. Here, that was going on, which I think was meant to be very helpful. Okay, but even though that was very helpful, the next month in August, we had a new moon in Leo. We tried to take more risks. So Leo is very bold, risk-taking. We tried to take more risks to really do these ideas that are easier, shorter, quicker. And I think we ran into some problems here and some fears and insecurities actually doing that when it comes to relationships with others. I think maybe relationships didn't really like this change that we were trying to make to do things independently, easier, quicker, fun. And also we met some resistance from ourselves, a fear around doing things in this different way, around letting ourselves be happy, around standing out, around letting some be easy, and a lot of guilt and shame also around this easier and more fun way of life as well, because we're not working hard or supposedly or doing some of these other things that we really needed to heal. And I think we did take some time during August to do that, especially when we went retrograde in Virgo. And we did. And because that, we then get to the last new moon that we had 2 weeks ago in Virgo here. And at that last new moon in Virgo, I think we then tried to move forward again on some of these ideas that we came up with in June here in a different way, right? The ideas that are easier, quicker, happier, more fun, in our best interest, and to do them on a more habitual, daily and regular basis that was going on. And I think that we started to do that a little bit. I think we did do that, especially after healing some things, but that there was still some hesitancy to fully go all in here to that in some sort of way, which then leads us to this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, which is what this video is for, where I think we really are trying to let go of doing things in long, drawn out, complex ways and surrender to this new way of being that's easier and that's more fun and that's more in our best interest, and to fully dive in, swim in the water, so to speak, with the Pisces and surrender to that here that's happening and make the decisions to do so. Okay, and that's it. That's all I'm going to say about the context and big picture. Because that's it, I'm now going to move in to the specific aspects that this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces is making here. To give you more of the specifics. Now, normally, most of the time, what I like to do when I go over the more specifics about the lunation, I like to start by looking at the lunation itself and the aspects it's making, but I'm actually going to start today by looking at some of the aspects happening around the full moon, and then I'll go towards the full moon because I think that's going to be very important. So let me do that. I think the first aspect I want to start with here is going to be Venus in the sign of Libra. Here at this full moon, as you can see, making a trine over here to Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. Okay, let's start with that. What is that about? In some ways, this is a fine thing. Okay, in some ways, this is a fine thing because Venus is at home in the sign of Libra, where it really likes to be in. Jupiter can be considered a planet of wisdom, understanding, gifts, and good luck. And a trine, to me, isn't inherently negative. It just kind of depends on, or challenging. It just kind of depends on what planets are involved. So in some ways it's good, but in some ways it's a little bit of a challenge because Venus is in the same sign of the South Node. And even though it's not close to the South Node, to me that matters. They're in the same world here. So they're both affecting the other, even if they're not in an exact aspect here. So I don't really care for that, especially with the solar eclipse coming up here on the South Node 2 weeks from now. And Jupiter is in Gemini as well, a sign it doesn't really care to be in either. So I think that this, in some ways can be helpful, and in other ways can be a little difficult. So I'm going to give you both. I'm going to start with the positive here. What is the good thing that's happening? Well, Venus is a lot about ourself as individuals, our self-worth, our understanding of who we are. Not only is it about that, it can also be considered to do with money here in our finances, and it can also be considered too to do with relationships and partnerships as well. And it's in the sign of Libra. Libra can be considered to be a lot also about peace, balance, fairness, and I'm going to go use another word here. I'm going to use alignment, about what's more in alignment with us at this time, our soul purpose, maybe even our destiny, since we are at the eclipses here, which have to do with fate and destiny here as well. And Jupiter can bring lots of wisdom and understanding about that. And new, Jupiter's a planet of new things, new ideas in Gemini, a mercurial sign, and new thoughts about that and what that can be that are starting to feel within reach. I might say, right, Jupiter's in Gemini has to do with the hands, more attainable here. That's going on. And a trend can indicate this happening very quickly. So we're getting a lot of new ideas about ourselves, relationships, money, and what is truly in alignment with us. And our soul purpose and what we want to create after this point, that's going to be much, much better for us. That's starting to feel more attainable or more within reach. That can also be like optimistic. Jupiter can be, optimistic here. That's going on. Hey, which I need to note, I think is coming because of that last new moon in Virgo. At that last new moon in Virgo, we started to do things in an easier, quicker, shorter, more fun, more independent way. So I think it's that easier, quicker, more fun way, being like, oh my gosh, now that I'm doing things easier, quicker, fun, I can do this with money, I can do this with relationships, I can be this kind of person, and this feels so much more in alignment with me and more at peace and my purpose and what I'm meant to create. So I think that's why a lot of it's coming together. Hey, but even though I do think this is wonderful, and I'm not trying to discount it, I think there are some challenging things here with, again, Venus being in the same sign as the South Node and Jupiter being involved. What is that? Well, Jupiter is a very big planet. Hey, and it's in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, a very small planet. So this can create a lot of overwhelm here, right? Sometimes these ideas are so big or so different that it can be hard for us to really grasp here what's going on or to wrap our minds around it. Here that's happening. This can also create too a lot, Jupiter very big of thinking, overthinking, especially with the Libra here too, that can go on as well. And just a lot in the head, a lot of mental energy that can also be a little hard to direct or to contain as well. That's happening here. So I think that's really what I want to start with here before I add another layer on top, is that the past 2 weeks or so, since that new moon in Virgo, we have been doing things in our life in an easier, quicker, more fun, more independent way that's more in our best interest, a little teensy bits. And that has started to open up a whole new perspective and mindset about who we are and what we want to create with money and relationships that's way more in alignment with us and our purpose than maybe it's been in a very long time here, which is very exciting and bringing up lots of new thoughts and ideas, but a little overwhelming here and foreign and maybe like hard for us to fully wrap our mind around. That then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, also related to Venus and Venus here, because at the same time Venus is making that trine to Jupiter, it's also making an opposition over here to Chiron in the sign of Aries. Okay, now this is to me more of a challenge than that last alignment because it is an opposition, which can be hard, and also too because Chiron's involved, and Chiron is typically known for indicating triggers, insecurities, things of that sort. So this can be more difficult. What is the difficulty or the triggers and the fears around that Chiron represents? Well, it's around that thing I just talked about, since it's connecting to that aspect here, which is those new ideas that it is that we're getting about ourselves and money and relationships here that's going on. What fears about these ideas is it? Well, Chiron is in Aries. Aries is a lot about action. So one of the issues could be here that, and this is not the one I lean more towards. I'm going to give you another thought here, but one of the issues could be that maybe we just don't know fully how to do and align everything together, right? We're getting the ideas of like what's in alignment with us with relationships and money, but maybe we are worried that we don't know what to do to actually bridge the gap, to bring the ideas into reality and to become more of a full part of our identity. Because not only is Aries about action, it also is a lot about our identity as a whole. Right? If that's not the issue, where we just don't really think we know what to do here, then the other issue this can bring, and this is the one I lead more towards, is that we do, in fact, know what to do to bridge the gap, to align our relationships, our money, and our sense of self towards our alignment, towards our purpose here, but we're afraid to do it. We know what we need to do, but we're afraid to really do the things that need to be done here that's going on, and are just worried or insecure about our actions, about whether they might work, or about the results and the things that they might bring here that's going on, and about maybe even achieving. If we're not worried that our actions won't work, maybe we're worried that our actions will work and that we will actually step into relationships and money and a sense of self that is better for us here. That can be a little bit hard here at this time. Okay, that's going on. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention here, which is going to be Mercury in Virgo, making an opposition over here to Saturn in Pisces here. Okay, what is that about? This to me is also a little difficult here because, again, it's an opposition, which can be more difficult, and because Saturn's involved too here as well. What can this bring that might be hard? Well, Mercury's in Virgo. That isn't a bad placement, mind you. Mercury is at home in exaltation in Virgo. But what Mercury in Virgo is trying to do here is think. Right? Mercury is a planet of thinking. Think more things through, and more practical, strategic, planned out in more organized and disciplined kind of ways, as though Virgo likes to really overcome this, right? There's a lot of fear. Do you see there's a lot of fear that's going on here? Either we don't know what to do to achieve our purpose and our alignment and things like that, or we do know what to do, but we're afraid that we're going to mess it up, or we're going to get what we want, right? And this is the mind trying to think around it, right? Trying to rationalize the fear. It's okay, don't worry about it, you'll be fine, you just need to do what you need to do, right? This is us trying to rationalize the fear in order to, I think, try to overcome it or work around it here that's going on. And with the opposition to Saturn, I don't really think that's working here. I don't think that the rationalizing the fears is making them go away. I think that they're still there here, especially because, again, Pisces can have a lot to do with things from the past that haven't fully been resolved, especially emotional things that we still need to heal and work through. So I don't think that the thinking is helping to resolve or heal the fear and the emotions that's going on, making us feel stuck. So Saturn, to me, can make things feel a little bit stuck. In addition to that, I think it can also be confusing us as well. You know, all these thoughts of like trying to rationalize things, it's confusing us and maybe even making us feel bad a little bit. Sometimes maybe a Virgo can do it, making us feel bad that like we should be further along or should have dealt with some of this stuff sooner here. That can just be a little hard. Yeah, and making us confused about like, well, what should I be doing? Should I do what I need to do? Should I do the emotions? I don't know. It just can bring a lot of weird things here that's going on, and it'd be a bit hard here, hard to balance. Usually oppositions or challenges of balance here too. So there's a lot of that going on. New ideas, sense of self, relationships, and money, way more aligned with us and our purpose. And it's been in a long time, especially now that we're starting to do things in a little bit of an easier way here that's more in our best interest. But these ideas are a lot, and they're very different from what we've had, bringing up a lot of fear and insecurity because we either think we don't know how to make these ideas come together, or we do know, but we're afraid that we're going to screw it up, or that we're actually going to achieve the things that's going on. And we're trying to rationalize the fear, which is just making, I think, things more confusing and more in our heads and just more weird and overwhelming here. That's going on. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which is going to be with Mars here. Mars here is in the sign of Cancer, making a square to the nodal axis, which includes the south node here in Libra and the north node here in Aries. This is also not my favorite thing because Mars is in Cancer, a sign it doesn't really care to be in, and it's making a square to the nodal axis, which is also a little bit challenging, especially according to evolutionary astrology, which is what I do. Okay, this is a little bit difficult here, square to the nodes. Maybe I'll start with that because a planet that's squaring the nodes is halfway in between the south node and the north node, and it can get indecisive, especially with the south node in Libra. I can get indecisive, like, which one do I do? Do I do the south node or the north node? I'm halfway in between. I'm 50-50. I could do either. I don't know. So it tends to get stuck and hesitate and not do anything, especially with Mars being in Cancer, a sign it doesn't like to be in. Mars doesn't like to be in Cancer because Mars likes to face things head on, and Cancer doesn't do that. It's symbolized by the crab, which moves sideways. It'll sidestep things, dodge things, or if something does happen, might be aggressive, with the pinchers here too. So this to me can be a bit hard and indicate here that our actions were halting, right? We're stopping acting, right? Because now especially in this easier way that we need to be acting in, because now we got a whole bunch of new ideas, we're triggered, we're confused, a lot of fears coming up. So we're stopping acting here that's going on and doing these easier things here, or we're feeling maybe very frustrated and upset, or if we are still acting, in our lives in an easier way, it's just a little bit, it's just like, not really consistent here. That's going on. That's happening. That's uncomfortable and making us feel also ungrounded with the Cancer here, because we're not doing this fully with it being the skip step, ungrounded and not really secure with a strong foundation. Cancer has to do with our foundations being about home and family. Like, we don't really have a strong foundation in this different way of life with these things that are now in alignment with us that we're realizing here as well, that can make us feel very, very shaky and on uncertain ground or uneasy ground here at this time. Okay, that's going on. So I think there's some of that here that's going on. Doing things in an easier, more fun way, more in our best interest, which is bringing up tons of new ideas about our self-relationships and money, and how we can finally adjust those to be way more in alignment with ourselves and our soul purpose than they've been in a long time, if ever, here, which is beautiful and wonderful and very exciting. But even though we're getting a lot of these insights here that's going on here, they're a lot, and they're so different from what we're used to, that they're bringing up a lot of triggers and fears and insecurities within us, because we either think we don't know how to align these things and take action towards it when we really do, or we do know what action and alignment to take, but we're afraid to take the action to fully seal the deal here and actually create the life of our dreams of purpose here, because we're worried we're going to mess it up, or we're worried we're going to actually achieve it here. That's going on. That is hard, and we're trying to rationalize the fears to make them go away, and it's not working, confusing us more, keeping us more stuck in the head, and it's making us want to halt everything that we were doing that was just good, was easier, halt everything, or act out in aggressive, weird ways here. That's continuing to make us feel more unstable and more unsettled. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I'm going to mention. And then it's going to start to get positive from here, because I really do like a lot of things that are going on here at this eclipse in Pisces, believe it or not. But we're going to start to get positive in just 1 minute. And the next alignment I want to look at is actually now going to be back to this eclipse itself. Okay, and this eclipse here is in Pisces conjunct Saturn. Here within 3 degrees of it, as you can see, or sorry, Neptune. I meant Neptune. Saturn is within 10 degrees, but I think it's really Neptune I want to focus on here. So now let's talk about that full moon conjunct Neptune. Now, there are some things that can be challenging about this as well, because it is Neptune, and Neptune is an outer planet. And I just think outer planets are just harder for us to work with here, not because they're bad, just because we live on Earth, and they are farther away from Earth, and they function differently here. So I think they can also be a bit of a challenge at first. What is the challenge there? Well, Neptune, I think, can amplify a lot of these other issues that I've talked about here, and just make them more confusing, more hazy, right? Sometimes Pisces can be like hazy, confused, disillusioned, can't see clearly, don't know what's going on. This can also bring up a lot of sadness, a lot of waterworks, because again, Pisces is a water sign, a lot of sadness, a lot of tears, maybe even a lot of nostalgia with it being the last sign of the zodiac. It can also bring up a lot of unresolved issues from the past, trauma or emotional wounds here too. That's going on as well around these things, and maybe make us feel like we're never going to get there. I think Pisces can bring that feeling of like, I'm never going to get to where I want to be. It just feels so far away, especially, sometimes being considered like a sign that can bring on the negative feelings of being a victim. So it can bring this feeling of like, I'm never going to get to where I want to go. Something bad always happens. Every time I try to do something good, something comes up. So it can bring that. And maybe I should note too, it could bring back a temptation towards old addictions. If some of you have tendencies towards that, especially because, Pisces is also considered a sign when negative that can have to do with some of those things there as well. Okay, so can also bring up some of those too, which a lot of times we go to comfort us when we're not feeling good. So it can just throw us back into a lot of that. Okay, but even though it can definitely do that, and I think there is a huge potential for that because eclipses too can be very volatile, I do think that the reason why this is happening is to actually bring a very significant positive breakthrough. Because sometimes in order for positive breakthroughs to happen, you need to work through the negative here that's going on in order to kind of restore balance here in a lot of ways. So I think there is a lot of emotional baggage from the past brought up, but it's going to lead to a breakthrough, especially again. Not only can eclipses be very volatile times, very intense and uncomfortable, but they can also shift the energy in very significant ways. So a lot of difficulty, but big breakthrough, or at least a very significant breakthrough possible at the same time here to help us through it. Especially, again, another thought, Neptune can wipe things away in Pisces, to wipe old stuff away and to move on. What is the breakthrough here that can come? Well, Pisces, again, is about the last sign of the zodiac, about the past. So the significant breakthrough that can come is that like, that's over. The old you, the old life, it's over here, and it's time to move on into a different experience and more of a peace and acceptance around that here. Not only can that be part of the breakthrough here that comes, but there can also be more of a breakthrough here that we need to bring more flow in our lives, right? Pisces, water, fish, bring more flow in our lives, especially towards these things that are easier and more fun and more in our best interest, right? Because what's easier is where the flow is, that's going with the flow. When you're doing things that are easier, when you're having fun, there's flow there. And when you're not doing things that are easy, there's not as much flow. So I think there's also a realization that like, we need to let go of the past as much as we can. The past is done. We got to move on here, and we got to go with what's easier and flow with that, and where more of the fun and the success is going to come after this. Not only is that going on, but I think there's also more trust in the divine or inner intuition and a higher power here to just carry us through and to surrender to that and to listen to that here in order to get us in a better place. And I think this is also bringing us diving into this new, different experience of life, easier, quicker, especially again, Pisces water, and the North Node is technically still in Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac. So big breakthrough here of like, I gotta let this old habit go, the old way of doing things go, the sadness, the confusion go, and I gotta trust my gut and trust my instinct and just surrender to a different way of life that's easier and just go with the flow of that instead of fighting against it. Okay. So I think that's going on there. I especially think that there's a very positive breakthrough that can come too, especially because this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces is making a sextile as well over here to Uranus in the sign of Taurus. Here pretty exactly, and Uranus can also bring the sudden and the unexpected, and a sextile is positive, more helpful aspect, and Uranus can also have to do with insights here too. So sudden and unexpected, very helpful insights that can make us feel a little bit more secure with the Taurus and confident here in whatever needs to happen, right? In order for us to align our lives more towards our purpose and our relationships and money here, that's going on. That can happen. This can also too not only bring positive, unexpected insights, but Taurus is an earth sign. And full moons to me do tend to manifest in more physical ways as well. So this can also be a positive, unexpected physical manifestation here as well. It doesn't feel like relationship related. I need to note though, with the Taurus, it feels more a positive, unexpected manifestations within our own self, where we feel more confident or where we feel more secure in our experience, can bring positive situations with money here or with our physical body here as well. That's going on. So it can bring just some unexpected things too, where we're able to bring more things together to align with our purpose, with our values here, and get us on that better path. Okay, in addition to that here as well, this full moon eclipse is also on the other side making another sextile over here to Pluto in Capricorn, which I also like, again, because it's a sextile, which I almost always interpret in a positive way. And this to me is very good. And I also think maybe another thing, I also think it's good too, because Pluto is almost out of Capricorn for good after being there for a long time. I think it was about since 2008. So this is like the victory lap now of Pluto in Capricorn. So I think this is also very good here. And Pluto's about permanent change and transformation. And Capricorn is in, the structure of our lives, in the way we've been doing life, has a lot to do with tradition for a long time. That permanently changing here to be much better for us, less rigid with the Capricorn there. And I think much better for us, where we feel more stronger, weirdly. I know we're surrendering a bit, but we're going to land in a stronger place, I think, here as well. And I think has given us more hope and faith about that too, which is very, very good. Okay, so I think that's what's going on there. Okay, to bring that all together, we've been doing things the past week or two in an easier way, more fun, more independent, more in our best interest, a little tiny bit. And that little tiny bit has really helped us to get a totally new understanding about ourselves, our relationships, and money, and what's in alignment with us in regards to those, and how we want to adjust those for the better, which is great. But even though that's great, I think that these ideas are very different than what we're used to here, or are a lot, that it's just overwhelming us and bringing up a lot of fear and anxiety. Fear maybe that we don't know how to align things together, but I really think we do. I think it's primarily fear that the actions we're going to take are either going to backfire or fail, or that we're going to or that they're actually going to work and we're actually going to get what we want here as well. That's going on. That could come up here at this time. And we're trying to rationalize our fear so that we can just continue doing things in this easier way, but that rationalizing really isn't working and making us feel stuck and hesitate and hold back and not really move forward, which I think is leaving us in a really shaky and unstable place and bringing out like every resistance imaginable about life and old issue and fear and subconscious trigger from the past. That's coming up. That can be hard, but even though a lot of these old, like all these negativity from the past is coming up, I think we're gonna suddenly, unexpectedly have a very big, significant aha moment or breakthrough here, where we're gonna stop letting that bother us as much as it once did and work through some of that, and instead here move on into a new experience, being a new person that's more in alignment with us, and to doing the things that are needed in order for that to happen in an easier way. That's more go with the flow here, and to trust and have faith that it's going to occur, which is going to help us feel more stable and secure and confident in ourselves, maybe even bring some positive, unexpected events with our physical body and with money here, and help us really overcome a lot of struggles from the past, like since 2008, and feel more in our power and more able to, have create the life we really want here, and feel stronger about the whole thing here, which is good. Okay, now a few other things I want to note before I summarize, summarize that and move on here. A few other things I want to note here is that I actually think a lot of this is going to happen naturally at this full moon, like both the negatives and the positives. I think it's all going to happen naturally or spontaneously. So I don't know if I really have any advice to give you for that reason. If there is any advice that I can give you, it's if you are experiencing a lot of negative emotions at this time that are coming back, to just be patient and calm and to nurture yourself through it, because I think that it'll resolve itself if you just give it some days and don't freak out too much. So I think there's some of that, and to be compassionate towards yourself, which are also kind of Pisces themes, like be compassionate towards yourself, be calm. So I think there's some of that that's going on. Not only may I say that as advice, but if this doesn't happen naturally for you, if you're like, no, it's now a week or two after the eclipse and no positive breakthroughs, if it's not happening naturally for you, then that is the advice. The advice is to do the best you can to kind of separate from the old traumas, the old emotions, and move on and do things differently than you would have before. Here, that are easier, that are faster, that are more in your best interest, and to give yourself over more wholeheartedly to that, and to just trust and have faith that it will work, and to surrender to that process here that's going on. Okay, another thought too that maybe I want to add that I didn't say before, unfortunately, is that Venus is opposing Chiron at this full moon. That can also bring a lot of fears and anxieties around relationships, that like, what if these things that I want that's in alignment with me is not in alignment with another person? So there can also be some things that may come up there. But I think that the relationships are more 2 weeks from now. We're going to talk about those. This full moon is more so about you really trusting what's in your best interest, what your intuition is telling you, this easier way of life, and wholeheartedly surrendering to that. And the 2 weeks from now, it's about dealing with the fallout in relationships. So not that that's not around, it's just that we're going to definitely talk about that. That'll be one of the things we'll talk about 2 weeks from now. And as of right now, I still feel like relationships are kind of just simmering there. Okay, and that's it. Because that's it, I'm just going to repeat that one last time here before we move on to other things. So let me do that now. What I think is going on here at this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces is this. Maybe I'll start here. We've been the past 2 weeks since the new moon in Virgo starting to do things in an easier way that's more fun, more independent, and more in our self-interest, little tiny bit by little tiny bit. And that different behavior has opened up a whole new world to our minds about ourselves, our relationships, and money, and who we want to be after this point, what relationships we want to be in after this point, how we want to do money after this point. That's different, and I think more in alignment with our true self and our purpose than either it's ever been in our lives or been in a very long time here. And that's a beautiful thing. But even though that's a beautiful thing, these ideas I think are so different from what we're used to, maybe even from the way that we're currently living our lives here, and overwhelming here, that it is triggering us a little bit and bringing up a lot of fear in us here. And it could triggering us and bringing up a lot of fear that maybe we don't know what to do. But I think mostly fear that we do know what to do to align these things together, but that we're going to do the wrong thing and it's going to fail, or that we're going to do the right thing to bring all this stuff together, but that it's actually going to work, and what that's going to mean and the consequences of that here. That is hard for us. And I think we're trying to rationalize our way out of the fear, out of the anxiety, to just do this alignment and what we need to happen. And I think that's actually making things worse and kind of making us clam up, hide, go into our shell, and kind of stop a lot of these good things that we were doing 2 weeks ago that brought all these good insights here. That's leaving us in a very uncertain place, feeling very on edge, very uneasy, and bringing up like every trigger imaginable, I think, from the past few years, and fear and a lot of sadness about our lives and things that we're leaving behind, or things that didn't work out, or things like this, and making us feel really bad about our situation and whether we're ever going to achieve these beautiful things that we're thinking in our mind. That can be hard, but and some sadness. But even though that's coming up, I think that there can be a very sudden and unexpected breakthrough here that can occur rather naturally here that is going to help us overcome and calm, like just as quickly as it came up, all of this negative emotion here and put us in a better place. And not only do I think there's going to be a big breakthrough that's going to calm the negative emotion and put us in a better place, but I think that this breakthrough is going to help us realize that the old is gone, is leaving, and that a new day is dawning, and that we need to move on and to become at peace with moving on, and to become more at peace with different behaviors that are easier, and to go more with these easier, happier, fun behaviors and with the flow of that instead of fighting against it, and to trust more in that process and to surrender to it here, and to move forward in that, which is bringing more confidence, self-worth, better things with money and our physical appearance, and making us feel like we're stronger than we were many years ago here, and are moving past a lot of old issues and themes for the better here. Hey, and I think a lot of that is going to happen naturally on its own, just spontaneously here. That's going on. And because I think it's going to happen naturally and spontaneously, the advice I'm going to give you is that if you're in the more challenging portion of this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, when all these triggers are coming up, try the best to be compassionate, kind to yourself, and patient, and just wait a few days. Because if you just wait a few days and don't overreact, I think it might be gone, the negative emotions, just as quickly as they came, and you'll be feeling a lot better. Here, not only do I want to give that as advice, but if this doesn't happen naturally for you and you're watching this video, 2, 3, 4 weeks after the eclipse here, then the advice I'll give you is to consciously choose that. If it doesn't happen naturally, then to consciously choose to let the past go and these old behaviors, and to move on into different behaviors and different things here, and to let things be easier and have more fun, and to go more with the flow of that instead of fighting against it, and to just surrender to that and trust that it will all work out for the best here, because it will. Okay, and that's it. Okay, now what I like to do next is just say a few other thoughts here about this full moon, and just some other larger themes. I think one of the things that I want to talk about, I think there are maybe 2 or 3 things that stand out, is what's the difference between that new moon in Virgo we had 2 weeks ago and this full moon in Pisces now. That's an eclipse. I think at the new moon in Virgo that was going on 2 weeks ago is that we were trying to do things in an easier way. Okay, that was more fun, more independent, quicker and shorter. But I think we were still hesitant to do it. Here, that's going on. And just little by little dipping our feet in. And I think at this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, we are still trying to do things in an easier way. Here, we're still hesitating. Okay, it's similar in that regard. But this full moon in Pisces, a lot more insecurities are coming up around it, and we're finally going to break through them. We're going to break through them so that we can embrace this different way. So I just want to be clear on that. The new moon 2 weeks ago and the full moon now are similar in the sense that we're both trying to do things easier, new way, and kind of still struggling to do it, not really doing it fully. But they're different in the sense that this full moon in Pisces is going to empower us to overcome that stagnation or any of the resistance and break through that here, to do things in an easier, quicker way, and to step into this different type of existence. Okay. I also want to note as well, now I guess to move on to another point, this is a positive thing. Okay. I don't know if I need to say that here, but this is a positive thing, right? That the full moon eclipse is helping us to break through stagnation, and to step in, and to empower us to step into different behaviors that are quicker, easier, shorter, funner, more in our best interest, right? That's a very good thing, right? Do you understand? It's making life easier to live. It's making life quicker to do things. It's making life more fun. It's making, life less complicated here. That's going, and it's also going to start to make, after this point, life move forward faster here as well. So keep that in mind here. So what's going on? Maybe I might consider this breaking the dam, like a dam that holds back water here. It's that. And then once we open the dam, break the dam, whatever it is, then more things are going to flow better. And I like that because the full moon's in Pisces, a water sign, right? And I think there's been a lot of things that have been held back or pent up that we haven't been able to release, especially with Saturn there in Pisces. And this full moon eclipse is helping us to break through this pent up emotion, the blockages in our life, this slow, stagnant, difficult, sad energy that I think has been going on really since at least 2020, but I think probably before that when Saturn was in when Saturn was in Scorpio. It's really helping us to break through that and to come out on the other side. So I want to add that even though I did spend a lot of time talking about the challenges here, the overall effect of this eclipse in Pisces is beautiful, positive, and very powerful here to help us get rid of anything in our lives that's been keeping us stuck and stagnant and sad, and to help us move forward happy, fun, carefree, fast, and pick up the pace now, especially in a way we have not seen since especially 2020. Okay. So keep that in mind. But sometimes in order to bring these positive breakthroughs, we need to more fully work through some of the negative emotions here that's going on, right? Because you can't have the dark without light, light without dark. They're related, so you got to work through some of these challenging emotions in order to bring some of the breakthrough here that is that you need. And I almost sometimes see them in relation. It's like sometimes the depth of the negative emotions make the breakthroughs even deeper as well, right? It's like the more intense sometimes the negative, the more intense the positive can be. So I think that there's a lot of intense feelings coming up to bring intense breakthrough and positive breakthrough on the other side, and to not lose the sight of that. Okay. That's going on. Okay. What else do I want to say here? I think another thought I want to address now is the relationships. I just did briefly a few minutes ago, but I want to do it more here. The relationships, right? Part of the insights that we're getting at this eclipse in Pisces, which I did say, is we're getting insights about how we want to do relationships differently in a way that's more aligned to our soul purpose here and what that is. Okay, there's a lot of that coming up too. We're also getting insights at this full moon about other things, right? About money and about our own sense of self and our habits and routines and how we can align those. But relationships are part of that here too. We're getting insights about the relationships and what that is. Okay, which is going on. Okay, but even though we're getting insights, hold on, what do I want to say there? Okay. Let me stick on the relationships for a minute before I move to the other point that was in my head. Okay, we're also getting insights about relationships at this full moon and how we can do those that's more in alignment. And I think when it comes to relationships, there is still the same fears I've mentioned of like, how do I adjust relationships to be more in alignment with me? And if I do adjust relationships, what happens when I get what I want in relationships here as well? So I think there's fear around that I want to address more specifically, because relationships hold an interesting place in people's hearts that a lot of times has more weight than other types of things in our lives. And because we are coming up to an eclipse in a relationship sign. So I want to note that here. Sorry, it's taken me a minute to get on the right track with my mind, but I want to note that relationships are a huge part of the insights we're getting at this time, and how to align those in a way that's more in alignment. That's difficult for us. And difficult for us because we're worried, what if we don't do what we need to do in relationships and then get taken advantage of, right? Do you see? Or what if we do what is in alignment for ourselves in relationships and then get what we want? And what are the consequences of that? What are other people going to say? Are they going to like that? There's a lot of fears around that too, that's coming up at this eclipse that is going on. Okay. Okay. And I think the things that I want to say about relationships here is that this eclipse in particular is remember these actions that we're getting: easier, more fun, more independent, right? That's a key part, more in our self-interest here. So that's happening. And the actions that we're going with the flow with at this full moon in Pisces are not so much to engage yet with relationships one-on-one. Okay, that's going to happen 2 weeks from now at the eclipse in Pisces, in Libra. Here, the actions that we're taking now that we're getting the breakthrough on is for me to just keep doing me. Like, I'm just going to keep doing me. I'm going to keep doing what's fun, what's in my best interest, especially because the eclipse is on this side of the zodiac. Aries is more independent, and Pisces too is known for, being in its own world. So Even though there are some concerns about relationships here of like, I'm getting insights about what to do with, about what relationships are more in alignment with me. But what if I mess it up and then get stuck in these relationships that aren't in alignment? Or what if I do it and then I get what I want and then the other person doesn't like what I want, right? Even though there's that anxiety here, the insight and the breakthrough that you're getting at this full moon in Pisces is not to deal head on with the relationships. It's to keep doing you and what's easier for you and what's independent for you and what's in your best interest here, and to keep doing that, because it's that behavior. It's that behavior that's then going to force a decision with the relationships 2 weeks from now. It's that behavior that then is going to attract the right people to you that are in alignment with you, because they're going to be like, oh, you're doing this cool thing, I like it, I want to do it with you. Or it's going to be that behavior that's going to separate you from some people who are going to be like, I don't like that you're doing that. Well, why are you, why are you doing this without me? Or why are you doing it this way? And then that's going to have to end 2 weeks from now. So I think that's another thought that I want to say, is that even though there are some concerns about relationships here and what's in alignment and how that's going to work out when you take the action towards it, your responsibility at this eclipse is not to worry about how other people are going to respond. It's for you to just do what's easier and fun and in your best interest and to your higher purpose. It's your responsibility to your higher purpose, to yourself, to the divine, and then let the relationships take care of themselves after that. Right? Because they're naturally going to be forced into some decision when you start being who you are, that I think is going to come up 2 weeks from now to deal with here, and to kind of trust that process as that occurs. Okay. So keep that in mind. I wouldn't, if there's an issue with relationships, I don't think I would engage head on, is what I'm trying to say, to say it in another way, until 2 weeks from now. I would just keep the peace, right? Venus is in Libra, keep the peace and do your own thing. And it's that action that's going to give you the clarity. Okay. And going to make that known later. Okay. Okay. Which, right, maybe what some of you all are worried about. Okay. What else do I want to say? The next thought I think that I want to add is about the actions itself. Now I'm going to broaden it to not just about relationships, or the actions itself, because there are some worries and insecurities here about action at this eclipse here with the Chiron and Aries opposite Venus in Libra, of like, what do I do and all of that. What are some of the fears in particular? Hey, some of you, when it comes to these fears around action at this eclipse, it could be fear. It could be insecure. It could be that some of you don't think you know what to do. So let me start there for a minute. Part one of the many, this is not the one I lean towards, but one of the issues that can come up, there are quite a few at this eclipse in Pisces, is that I want to align my life. I'm getting more clarity on what's in alignment with myself, relationships, money, etc. But there's an issue. And part of the issue could be that you think you don't know how to do it. You have this idea in your mind of what you want, but you don't know how to do it. Okay, if that's you, right, I'm going to give a few other things. If that's you, then my answer to that is you do know how to do it. You just think you don't. You do know how to do it. You just think you don't. Okay, and think is a key word here, because the mind is messing you up. The mind is messing you up here. Okay, and the reason why you do know what to do it, but you don't think you do, is because I think the Mercury in Virgo is opposite the Saturn, making our mind in a weird place, especially with Jupiter and Gemini. The mind is not right. And because this energy is not about thinking, it's about acting and diving in and trusting our instincts and seeing how it all plays out. So that's another thing that I want to say. If you're one of those people that's like, I have an idea of what I want things to be, but I don't know how to do it. Well, I think a breakthrough is coming for you. Okay. And I think the breakthrough is here, you actually do know what to do. You just think you don't because you're thinking too much, and you need to get out of the head and get into the instinct here and what your first instinct is, and go for that, because that is correct. Your instinct is correct. Your mind is not. Your instinct knows it's going to get you to where you need to go. Okay. Not only do I want to say that to you, if you're one of those people that's like, I really don't know what to do, then another thought that I have for you is doing the thing, or whatever, doing anything that you feel called to is going to give you the answers that you want, right? Because thinking more is not going to give you the answers you want, because thinking about something when you've never done something before, you're just going to be spinning in circles. The best way to get answers about how to do something you've never done before is to do it and see, to do it and find out and see. So if you're one of those people that's like, I'm getting an idea of what I want, but I don't know how to do it, my thought is you actually do know how to do it if you trust your gut, but you're thinking too much in the head and you need to stop thinking too much. But if you really, really, really don't know how to do it, then you just have to try. You just have to start and try, and follow the gut, whatever that is, because the more you try, the more you're going to know what is and isn't working, and the more you're going to get comfortable with what needs to happen and move towards that. Okay. The other issue that may come up with the actions here is the fear. There's a fear of like, what if I mess it up, right? There's another fear that's coming up here at this full moon in Pisces of like, what if I know what I want to create with relationships and money and all of that, but what if I mess it up and then fall short, right? There's another fear there. Well, that's coming up. Well, if that's you, if that's what you're getting, then my thought here on that is if you don't try, you're always going to fall short, right? If you don't try to just surrender, like to just make things happen and go with the flow of like what's better for you and dive in. If you don't try, you're never right. You lose 100% of the chances you don't take. You know what I mean? So it's like, sure, you may try to create this life of your dreams that you're envisioning that's more in alignment, and you may fail. Okay, but you're definitely going to fail if you don't do anything. So you might as well try. And like failing's not the worst thing in the world. Okay, there's a lot to be learned through that. Okay, so I think there's a part of that too, which again is part of what we're learning and part of what that breakthrough is. The Pisces, trust, faith, go for it. Go for what's easy. Go for what's fun. Go for what your instinct is telling you. Spirit, the intuition, go for it here and trust that it'll be okay. So that's part of it. Now, another thing that's going on, another part of the fear here, if it's not, you think you don't know what to do when I think you do. And if it's not, you're worried you're going to mess it up. Then some of you are afraid that you're going to get exactly what you want. I'm going to do the thing to align my relationships, my money, etc. It's going to be exactly what I want. And then it's going to be different, right? There's a fear of it. It is going to be what I want. And then that thing that I want is going to create a permanent change. It's going to create a permanent change here. And I'm never going to be able to go back. I think there's a fear of like, I'm never going to be able to go back to whatever it once was. You know, that can also be coming up here at the Pisces, trying to draw a line in the sand between kind of like the old life and the new life here. So I think there's some of that too. And if that's if that's your particular fear, then the answer to that is also the eclipse in Pisces with the breakthrough. I think the breakthrough is coming, but the breakthrough there is like, let it go. Right? Just surrender, just let it go. You know, if you're worried about life being totally different, surrender to the fact that life's going to be totally different and draw a line in the sand, right? And let it go. Let the old stuff go. You know, it's to learn to let the old stuff go and to go with the desire that I think is getting stronger and easier instead of the other, you know? So I also wanted to note that here, more specifically about what these fears are around action and how the eclipse in Pisces is going to help each one of those. Because sometimes when I talk in these general terms or when I smush everything together here, you know, the eclipse in Pisces, it's about, you know, going more with this easier, fun thing, you know, and trusting and starting, we get confused about how it applies to our situation. So I'm just trying to give you more specifics to show you how it will apply. Okay. If you think you don't know what to do, you actually do. You need to stop thinking and you need to just start doing stuff and trusting your first instinct and your gut, because that's going to get you where you need to go. Okay. And if you do know what to do, but you're afraid to do it, that it's not going to work. Okay. Who cares? Because if you don't do it at all, it's definitely not going to work. At least you got a chance by doing something. And if you're afraid you're going to get exactly what you want here when you do it, well, then you need to surrender to the new life and just trust that it's going to be okay and to let go into that. And you need to use whatever interpretation makes the most sense to you, because Pisces is about all of those things, you know, trusting, surrendering, following your intuition, letting whatever, you know, whatever needs to happen for your highest purpose happen. So keep that in mind. Okay. here. Okay, now what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to look at your inside degrees. So let's pull those up on the screen. The inside degrees were not written by me. They were written by someone else named Elias Lonsdale, who channeled the meanings for each of the degrees from Spirit. But I do like to read them because I think that they are interesting and relevant. So we'll do that. This full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces is at 25 degrees, but I think the degrees of before and after can all be relevant. So let's look at those. I like to read these to give more confirmation to things that I've already said, and to, add another perspective. So let's do that. We've got 24 degrees Pisces. It says inward explosions. The pressure valve goes off. You sit inside collective and ancestral frequencies of doubt and insecurity, and suppression. Okay, so I want to start there. And part of the reason why I want to start there is because, right, I know that some people think I focus a little too much on the negatives, but sometimes I like to look at these degrees to show you here. It's not just me trying to be negative. I think there is some of that here. I mean, even this degree says we're sitting inside frequencies of doubt and insecurity and suppression, which is a lot. Inward explosions. I mean, that doesn't mean a little bit. That's a lot of frequencies. And collective and ancestral means things that have gone on for a long time, years, decades, past lives, like all coming up here. So I don't think it's just me trying to make it up or be negative. I think there's a part of that of what's going on. Okay. Then it reads on the next sentence, until this can no longer be. So another thought that I have here is not only is this full moon eclipse in Pisces bringing up a lot of old, frequencies of doubt, insecurity, and suppression that can be very hard, but it's bringing them up so that they can no longer be, right? So that we can kind of get rid of them here and move on. Okay, it says the frenzied edge of new worlds, the ancient accumulations of old worlds. Not only do I get that from this inside degree, but I also get too that this full moon in Pisces indicates us being in between two worlds, the old one that we're still kind of having to tie up and reckon with, and the new one here that is trying to come into being ever since 2020. It's us, still kind of in between there. And I think trying to reckon with that more fully so that we're not in between worlds, but so that we're more fully in the one than the other. So I think that's also a lot of what's going on. Now, I don't think we're fully going to be in the new life until Saturn enters Aries, which will happen a little bit next year, but won't really happen permanently until 2026. So I think we're really looking at 2026 here, and we're going to have eclipses in Pisces all next year. So I think we're in between still two worlds, but I think this is the beginning of the end. This is the beginning of the end of straddling the line. This, especially since this is the first eclipse near the North Node in Pisces we've had in a while. This eclipse is trying to get us out of this half in the old, half in the new. What is it? And the whole next year is going to try to do that so that we can finally say, no, I'm definitely in the new here. And it's trying to help us get rid of a lot of the emotional baggage from the past so that we can move on. It says, coming to that point where the inward power overthrows form constraints, scatters semblances, and finds something magnificent that has been untapped and forbidden for so very long, the final spark ignites, releases, and reveals. What was lost and forgotten is more there than ever, and not discouraged, never put down. So this to me is another indicator that there will be a big breakthrough, right? Coming to that point where power overthrows any constraints. So I'm getting a lot of confirmation here of like a lot of negative emotions coming up here from the past. But this is a significant point where we're going to deal with those and start to overthrow more of those things so that they don't hold us back here, and so that we can usher more completely over the course of the next year into a new experience here. Okay. This last sentence is, what was lost and forgotten is more there than ever, and not discouraged. Another thing that reminds me of is I've talked a little bit in this video about us realizing what's more in alignment with us and our soul purpose, so to speak, or what we're here to do. I think that's happening a lot at this full moon here. And I think some of that stuff that we're realizing as a part of our soul purpose are new realizations, but I think some of the things that we're realizing are part of our soul purpose are things that we maybe always knew, especially since we were a child, but maybe that we just forgot over time. So I think there's also something there to note, is that part of what we're realizing is in alignment with us is new, and part is something that's always been there that we just never allowed ourselves to experience. Okay, let's go on. Pisces 25, it says, going deep and going far, yet emotionally afraid and bereft, and impelled by great force of being to carry on with destiny strides forward, you are periodically swamped by onslaughts of everything feared coming true. So here's another inside degree where we're also getting this weird dichotomy of like a lot of challenges, going deep, a lot of deep insecurity swamped by fear here coming up to the surface to be dealt with, similar to what I've said and what Pisces 24 said. It says, being certain and being terrorized, the exquisite gift of pulling yourself to the enactment of personal, collective, and ancestral nightmares. Okay. So we're trying to overcome the past challenges. There's this constant theme. Okay, it says you feel a consecration to what is coming into being on the expanded horizon, and a warrior's courage and always going back and grappling with the lingering shadows, a mission that cannot be refused, and a sense of purpose that defies its own collapse and rises from the ashes repeatedly. So there's a little bit of both. Bad emotions coming up, challenging emotions, but breakthroughs on the other side. Not only that, but this degree to me, I like the words a warrior's courage, especially with the North Node still in Aries. This to me is also indicating a natural courage coming through at this eclipse to say, I'm not going to stay stuck. I'm not going to stay in the place that I once was, which I think is emerging naturally from us to go for the things that it is that we want. So there might also be some of that, a natural instinct. Again, a natural instinct. I do feel it, a natural instinct emerging to get you on the path that you need. Okay, let's look at the last degree. It says, the brink of the infinite, tapping directly into realms of existence beyond the physical. You sense all pervasively the multiple frequencies of all that is really here, having a vast grasp of what is possible and of what is asking to be brought in, while extended very far into regions others miss. Feeling, hearing, tasting the power of spirit in action. This, to me, this degree is more inspiring, I suppose. But it does indicate a connection to me with the other side, right? With spirit, with intuition, with the divine here, and surrendering to that, feeling, hearing the power of spirit in action. Let's read on. Half mesmerized and half supercharged to get everybody in on it somehow. Perhaps retreating to more traditional versions of the infinite path if frightened by a lack of understanding comes back. Communing with the mysteries and absolutely at home within those places others find strange. The inside becomes all, the outside virtually transparent to the light within. So this degree gives me more of a hopeful approach of like, yeah, we are teetering back and forth between the old fears and insecurities of the past and this new world that's more in touch with our purpose, but that an inner courage and inner drive is going to emerge, and an inner connection to spirit is going to emerge more naturally, that we're going to feel driven towards or called towards, that's going to help us through. Okay. And to move on. Okay, and did you see that? Did you see that here? There is something else. It says, frightened, retreating to more traditional versions of the infinite path if frightened by a lack of understanding. I think I mentioned some of that in the aspect, so I find that interesting too. Okay, but I think that's what I want to say there. Maybe to repeat it one last time, we're starting to align. Now, full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, a higher path, a higher trajectory, our soul's purpose, what's more in alignment with us personally, financially, with relationships here, very good. Okay, and to understand what that is. But even though that's going on, we're bringing up a lot of fear around that from the depths of the soul, from the past, collective karmas, past karmas, things like that, around that purpose, around that alignment, that we aren't going to get it, that we are going to get it, that it's not going to work, things like that here. That's very hard. And that's coming, these fears are coming up to finally be broken through so that we can get to the other side into this better experience that's more in touch with our soul purpose and more easy. And we're going to have a natural courage and warrior spirit to help us do it. And angels and spirit and the divine are also going to naturally come to help us through it, or they've always been there, make their presence more known, so to speak, in order to bring things together at some point. Okay, so that's how I feel about that. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull your card. All right. Another thought before I look at your card, I want to say I do, I have made this into a podcast. So if you can't watch all at once or prefer to listen, you can do that. It's the Ethereal Astrology podcast, I think on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Now your card here is the Two of Pentacles, and upright we've got the Nine, or sorry, at the bottom of the deck we've got the Nine of Swords upright. The Nine of Swords to me is a lot of fear, anxiety, worry, nightmares. Maybe some of you could have some weird dreams. Pisces is a lot about dreams. It's where the eclipse is here too. That could be strange here that's going on. So I'm getting a lot of that. And the Two of Pentacles, I don't know if I want to say balance. I don't, because the South Node's in Libra. So balance is not really where we need to be at, but I'm getting a sense of calmness, peace and calm amongst the waves. Or there's like, in the back of this card, there's some waves. So I think that's what I'm feeling, is that there's a lot of emotion, I think, happening at this full moon eclipse in Pisces. A lot of things from the past coming up to be resolved that could bring nightmares, weird dreams, feel very upsetting, confusing, disorienting, and do your best to remain calm and to just observe, to not get wrapped up in these negative emotions, but to remain calm and to just observe them happening as they arise and accept them for what they are. And maybe nurture yourself through them as well here, because if you can do that, I think they're going to subside on their own. They're going to subside on their own, and a natural inner drive and conviction is going to emerge naturally to help you through it. So I think that's the thing here. And if you don't calm yourself while you may be in the emotional throes and you let them kind of throw you around, here it's going to make the situation more unpleasant, right? Or maybe create just more complication in your situation than what is really necessary here at this time. Okay, so that's what I want to say there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was helpful. I wish you all the best this eclipse in Pisces, and I'll talk to you 2 weeks from now at that solar eclipse in Libra, where we'll definitely be talking about relationships either ending or changing in a very significant way. So that's it. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you later.